Good day, peeps. I'm Sheila Jean Burgher. Welcome to Heart Talks. Okay, so I've been on this roll here, finding these guys who have found a voice in their awakening. And it's really interesting because I'm always saying it's such a unique journey. Each and every one of us is having such a unique journey. And in this awakening, whether it's male or female, there's generally speaking some epic moment, near death, an accident, anything can happen that can cause this initial, a little snap or awakening. And then there's sort of like this confusion or complete clarity of what you've come to know, not what you believe, but what you come to know from this moment of awakening. And from that point, abilities seem to kick in, and you start discovering what it is that you've got special, what you've got that you can offer, what is divinely awakening within you, things that you might never have had training in, and all of a sudden know. And you start working them and sharing them, and you start gaining these tools along your path. Okay? And it's these tools that we share with each other as we go along the path and as we get our voice and start sharing what our awakening has been like. Today, my guest is Tyrel Wiltse, and he too, just like here at Heart Talks, has made a safe and supportive place for him to share all that he knows and has become in his awakening for others who are needing assistance. And he does this in what he calls Karmic Processing. Okay, this is what I love about Tyrel, is that in his guidance, he takes each and every one of his clients, students, whatever you call, and directs them to their selves. This is how I knew that he was unique and awakened, because this is the direction that anyone who is in divine position to guide would do. And so I want to thank you, Tyrel, for adding to this the new world of discovery and of healing and of love and compassion that you are giving to the world. So thank you so much for adding your voice here at Heart Talks.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm honored to be here with you.
Okay, so some people just have to have like one near-death experience, and that's that epic little moment. But no, not for our guest today. No, he had like 6 right from the beginning.
Yeah. I figured you were going to bring that one up.
I just had to say that. That's simply you,
right? So the first couple ones were 3 right before I was about 2 months old. I had my cardiovascular system fail twice, and my brain stopped once. And I was in a coma for a while with those. And then residual from that was I had multiple seizures after that. I also got to go through extensive physical therapy. My mom and most of the people in the small town of Powell, Wyoming, that were in the medical profession, they did all sorts of case studies and everything else on me. The fourth time was a while later, and that's where I actually had another seizure, and later this month I'll be talking about that one, because that's the one that's a little bit more in depth.
Right.
And that one was really my first association of going out of body.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fifth time was actually an energy presence actually pushed me out of my body. And then the most recent time was an entire death of identity. So everything that identified as Tyrel and the way things are and the way the world is. And that was actually just the last couple of months ago. So it was right around the beginning of the new year, actually.
Wow.
So I'm reformulating myself from that one.
And isn't that part of the awakening, is constantly reformulating, readjusting to
everything? Yeah, and that's a big part of why karmic processing came through. As I mentioned yesterday when we were talking, the karmic processing came from a 70 days of meditation that I did, a couple hours a day, and through that I was able to formulate all the outside crazy stuff that I'd been experiencing into a process that I could first teach myself, and then I actually got into where I was teaching other people with it. So that's what the last year.
You came up with that from your higher observation,
mm-hmm.
and the totality of your experience, I guess.
Yeah. It was a unique combination of my spiritual awareness and my classical training. For 10 years, I was an engineering inspector. And so I would observe how these different things were built. But my favorite part of the job was having conversations with my coworkers. So I found that there's a lot of the same principles in constructing a building or a freeway or whatever, and constructing a person, a human. And there's more subtlety, there's more interactions there, but a lot of the concepts hold true across the spectrum.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about the karma. We spoke here the other day for like 2.5 hours, and now we're going to try to condense that to a half hour. So good luck to us on that.
That's how it usually works.
I know. So let's just get to the service you're offering here, Karmic Processing. Okay. So what kind of person? What would somebody do to come have services there? What would they be saying to you?
So Karmic Processing, I've tailored the name to really call to a certain group of people. The reason that I use the words that I use is to resonate that frequency with people that are ready for that kind of awakening, that kind of awareness. So Karmic Processing, there isn't really like a prerequisite list that you have to fill out to be part of it. I've had clients from 3 to 87, and the tools are a little bit different, but the overall concept, the process is pretty much the same. So the fun part is that I've actually made Karmic Processing available to, you can just get on an IM and we can run through it. You can do it over the phone. We can do it as Skype like we're doing here. We can do it in person, whatever works best for the individual.
Mm-hmm.
What's great about that is at the end of 2 hours, people not only have gone through the process, but they've got the template, the specific template to them to make that happen for the rest of their life, and teach it to friends and family. It's really an abundance tool.
Nice. So let's just say someone is having a hard time getting over, let's say, a death or something, getting over a loss of some kind.
Right.
Okay. And they're just having a hard time and can't get through it.
Right.
So then they would contact you.
Yep.
And now explain, because I know that you see the many layers of what's going on. How is it that you put your perspective into this process?
So a big part of what I do with people is I have them set their intentions at the beginning of things. That serves me in a big way because I can see what they're aware of. I can see where they want to go, but I can also see the words that they use. And those are actually, to me, those are like tumblers in the lock. I can see what key they're looking for at that time. And then when they take that awareness and say, okay, I want to focus on these, and then they show up and they pay, then I know that they're ready for it. And then as we both explore, because rather than me saying, okay, this is what you're going to do, and here's 2 pills, call me in the morning, we're actually going through the journey together. So the individual, as much as I do, determines where they end up in their experience. Nobody can do it wrong. Out of several hundreds of people that have gone through it in the last year, there has been a unique experience every time. But the key that happens every time, people set their intentions and they achieve their intentions by the end of the session. Everywhere from forgiveness for murderers, rapists, thieves, bosses that have wronged them, that kind of thing, to rewriting their financial blueprint, rewriting their spiritual blueprint, and really connecting to divinity, source, whoever they are. So this is the beautiful tool. I actually just on Facebook described it as the Swiss Army knife of energy work. Yeah, because it's an amazing tool, but it's only as amazing as you know how to use it. So that's what we're doing, is we're exploring the features of it and seeing, what features are working best for the person.
Right. So you're actually giving each person tools to use that they can discover their own path, their own. So is it like, okay, so are you taking them to that energy place where that forgiveness needs to be? How are you redirecting how they look at it?
Yeah, in a lot of ways. When I see people, I get basically, I don't know if the people listening or watching have had an opportunity to see blueprints, but I basically see people laid out as blueprints. They're overlapped. There's different interactions. So it's a multi-phasic energy system that builds a unique individual. And occasionally there'll be kinks, there'll be pieces missing, there'll be stuff that's not quite working. And
talking about like on the emotional level and on physical level, there's all these levels, right? That you can find this. And what are those levels?
Well, so the human body, if you will, is comprised of at least 6 consciousnesses. And I use the acronym Christ just because it fits, and it's 6 letters. And another thing is that a lot of people have been talking about Christ consciousness. And so instead of saying consciousnesses, which is a tongue twister, I just abbreviate it conchi. So I call it cubic conchi. And so the individual is comprised of a corporeal or a bodily consciousness, a heart consciousness, a reality consciousness, a intellectual consciousness, a spiritual consciousness, and a tribal consciousness.
Wow. I love that.
Isn't that fun? And go ahead.
And it kind of clearly defines, so you can go right directly to that area.
Exactly. And I use Rubik's cubes and stuff like that in my dissertations and when I'm walking people through this. But the general idea is that you are a complex individual. You're comprised of these many intricate moving parts. And when you find out what your unique combination is, then you know how to solve your own riddle, get back to wholeness.
Right.
And so that's that's the journey I take people on, is solving their own riddles. And the riddles can look like physical trauma, mental, emotional, spiritual trauma. A lot of people are awakening to their karmic components, where they've got this tribal angst that they just find themselves angry all the time, or certain things just set them off. And we tune into that, and okay, why are you experiencing that? And
when you go to that level there,
mm-hmm.
Okay, how do you know how to get to that level? Is it because like there's nothing that happened here that really made me that mad?
Right.
Is that what? Is that
Yeah.
kind of your?
Yeah, and so that's where it's really up to the individual. They will determine their own path. One of the things that I use to get kind of a feel for that, because most of these people, it's the first time I'm meeting them in person, or it's the first time I'm interacting with them. So one of the tools I use is actually body language. And body language will show where energy blocks or slowing down, or where the message isn't quite being received by the individual. So that's a good feedback tool. Also, my energy tools, I can see energy very well. Mm-hmm. And then I also train people to do this within themselves. Tune into the feelings and where they're at, and when they start to come on, and then that'll give them clues to what they're working to resolve at that time.
Okay, and so is this something that people just keep coming to you until they get it out, or
some people do. Some people have multiple sessions. Other people, they just want to learn how to do the process, and then they do it on their own. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, I call it an emotional involvement. They're emotionally involved with their story, emotionally invested in the particular path that they've taken. And as such, making a change isn't just a logical decision. It isn't just a results-based decision. It's a very emotional decision. Yeah. And so they want a little bit of assistance from somebody who's walked that path. As I shared with you, one of my nicknames is a spiritual Sherpa. So I've walked this path several times for myself and with many other people. And so I show people, hey, look, there's a hole over there. And hey, watch out for that cliff. And oh, by the way, that's slippery over there, that kind of stuff.
Right. Wow. Well, okay. And as far as your own personal journey here, mm-hmm. Okay, in your awakening process,
yeah,
it's it's a long but fascinating story of how you came up with your own gig here.
Yep.
To share what you know. We're trying to encourage people that once they find their voice, mm-hmm. There comes a point when you get a message that it's time to share.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, mine kind of came through Rachel, through the radio.
Yep.
And so as divine masculine energy, we spoke about this quite a bit yesterday.
Yes, we did.
You are going through some incredible transformation right now, yeah. And transition.
Yep. Big time.
Okay. And the reason why we're doing these shows is for all people, but for guys, mm-hmm. in this series who are waking up, and I see them all around, and they just want to talk about it, but yeah. You can see them kind of holding back a little, or a little like, I don't even know what's happening to me right now.
Well, and a lot of that has to do with the gender paradigms, the gender roles that have right. been reinforced through countless generations.
Yes.
don't talk about your feelings. Don't show emotion. Don't, talk about that kind of stuff in depth. Don't explore that route. And it's absolutely terrifying for most men to even mention that they have emotions in a public setting, let alone talk about them in depth with an understanding, with a truth and a trust that what they're saying is real. And that for me, actually, it wasn't something I just decided to do. I had many, many, many people that were encouraging me to do that. My family is a prime example. My friends are other examples. My soul family, people that I meet and I've known them forever. People of that realm. And the key thing, big part of the reason why I wanted to be on your show, why I want to be out there on Facebook all the time, is letting people know they're not alone. It's okay to talk about these things, and we work better as a team than we do individually.
That is so true. And that is what we are doing, is opening up our arms and our hearts to those who are awakening at such a fast pace. And it's so exciting as painful as it can be, how one just evolves into who they really are.
Yeah.
Okay. And so many times that turns out not to be the old-fashioned breadwinner for the guy.
Exactly.
Okay. And, we were talking about how complex this is for young 30-year-old men who are at that age where they're marrying and starting their family, and how complex it is to have that position and be able to take that time to develop yourself and change before your family's eyes.
Yeah. It does take quite a lot. My journey has, by my own choosing, a lot of it has been a solitary journey, and the benefits of that are numerous. The complications of that are also numerous, because in the solitary journey, you don't have to develop a dialogue with anybody to keep them up to speed on what's going on. But when you check back in, and your entire, like, for instance, the last couple of months, my entire identity is completely fallen away, and I don't have an association with it. So everybody that knew me as that Tyrel for 30 plus years is saying, well, wait a minute, who are you saying you are now? Yeah. That kind of thing. Right. And some people actually go through, they will have a name shift, or like an external personality or identity shift that goes with that. And everything being a choice, you can choose to just keep going and leave people behind, or you can choose to do the work and find the dialogue and find the interactions. And that's a big part of what I work with men and women on, is developing that dialogue, using those communication tools, because it's one of those things. Money and communication are two things that we just kind of skirt around in society. So-and-so should know about that, or this is the way I learned it, and that's the only way. Right. Right. We're developing at such a rapid rate that we absolutely need open dialogue from everybody to stay ahead of it, to keep in the flow of things. Yes. And really, in that communication process, it helps us own our gig. Yeah. I know that as I was, finding my abilities, and it was very interesting, because I went through this phase where
I just kept looking at everybody else's abilities and going, well, I don't have that, you know,
Right.
I don't have that. And then I would try to have that.
Yeah.
And then I would see somebody else with a really cool ability and I would try to have that.
Right.
Okay. There's no trying.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the fun part is that as you see those people with awakened gifts, the principle of Namaste, I honor that within you, which is also within me, is one way of saying that.
Yes.
But it's also it's a principle of perception. You cannot see what doesn't exist within you already.
Absolutely.
You will block it out. It won't make any sense. It won't fit into your paradigms. So if you see those gifts within another person, you can awaken them within you, but not everybody knows how to do that. Not everybody has a meditative practice or a spiritual guru or anything along those lines that gives them the license and the ability to do the work that they want to do. And that's one of the things. Not only do I do that personally, but I train people to be in that space for their tribe, for their community. Because one of the things I'm working on is world peace. And what better way to do it than initiate members of all the tribes and have them go into their collective tribes and do the work that they're meant to do.
Right. It's just sort of organizing basic skills again, really.
Exactly. And that's all it really is. And when people get into the awareness that, you know, this spirituality, this awakening is not all that different from what we already know, we just get to do our work in a different way, then it completely awakens the individual to, hey, you know, all this wasn't lost time. All this wasn't lost energy. Just how do I apply it? How do I connect it to what I'm currently doing? That's
right. Because you think in the beginning that you've got to go out and do something amazing.
Yep.
And that certainly not what's going on around me right now. Have I got any purpose, or, you know, like it doesn't count if it's your brother.
Hang on one second. Namaste.
And we're back.
Yes, we are, because we're just that energetic.
We can blow a Skype screen right off the planet.
It's true, and that's just a small amount of our energy that we have.
That is, it's so true. Well, all right, now. Okay, so let's get back to how, for people who are interested in karmic processing. Okay, right. Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's direct them in that direction.
Okay, so karmic processing, you can get a hold of me through Facebook. Pretty much you type my name, Tyrel Wiltse, into Google or any of the other search engines. It returns a result for me. Facebook's the easiest way to get a hold of me. I'm on there quite a bit. But you can also email to humansbeing7@gmail, and that's the number 7. And then many other ways to get a hold of me. My phone number is on the internet too, because some people, they just want to call and have a conversation.
That's nice to know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good way to connect.
Yes.
Basically from there, then we just set up the individual session for karmic processing, and that's $150 for 2 hours. And that is for an individual session. Now, if you wanted to do a group session, I do have group rates available, and then you can connect to me that way.
Would a group session be for like a family who are suffering the same thing, or?
Yeah, like a family that suffered a loss. I've had businesses, they want to increase productivity and job satisfaction, and they'll bring me in. I have a program that I teach some of these same concepts in schools. So it's
Really?
very,
In the
yeah.
schools?
Well,
That's
and
Texas.
yeah, and there's been, everybody's seen it in the news. There's been an epidemic of bullying and suicide and drug use and things of that nature. And really, all that is saying is that the kids are having difficulty coping, and the teachers are having difficulty coping with the kids. The parents are having difficulty coping with the interactions. So all these tools just go back to communication, energy awareness, accountability. It's pervasive. There isn't really the secular nature of society anymore, where okay, you go into this box over here and this into this box over there, and everything's neat and proper. More and more, we're getting into a space where everything is interrelated. We know we're interconnected. Science has proven it. We've got all these different aspects that we know, but we still have the silly desire to separate them,
Right.
and that's not how we work.
Right.
So the group sessions are great because I'll actually offer a discount when you get 5 or more people together, and then I've been making up a way to teach this to really large groups, to 100, 200, thousands of people, whatever it gets to be.
Wow.
Now, granted, the time frame is going to be a little different. The one-on-one interaction would be different, but I am with a group right now that has karmic processing as part of a whole nother universal processing group now. That in fact, after this session, I'm going to go to the meeting downtown.
Uh-huh.
So that this, well, it's simply the universal code for everything in the group that everybody got is basically, in some form, it's called process. So karmic processing came to me. Another one of the gals has been classically trained in what's called the process, that came from, it was taught down in Australia, and is, spiritual gurus from Deepak to a bunch of the other ones have been trained in it. And then another gal has a crystal Reiki therapy that is an awakening process as well. And then there's more people. I actually, one of the gals in my community, she went over to India to learn what they're calling karmic processing. And karmic processing for me was just the word that came through to describe what I was doing.
I love that.
Isn't that fun? Yeah. So you get this emergence, you get this synchronicity. And I mean, she went over to the ashram and had the whole classical training on it and everything. And I haven't had a chance to experience what they're calling karmic processing, or a karmic processor. It's a similar name. But the idea is that these modalities, these awarenesses they're popping up everywhere. And more people are awakening to their gifts. And that's why in 2012, on December 19th, 2012, my most lucrative job ended. And I was the first person in the office to get laid off. I was excited because I knew that I had a severance package, that the company was happy with me, but I also had really important stuff to do. And part of that was getting my nonprofit project. Four friends and I created a nonprofit project, and we got that into nonprofit project status within 6 months, and we were in our first school in that same amount of time.
Oh, wow.
So we were ready for it. And it was synchronicity, it was planning, it was the right crew, everything was perfect. Yeah. And since, we're working on funding to keep that going, because the schools are tapped out. We had the PTAs pay for 2 of the sessions that we did. But people need the tools. They absolutely are craving them. It's just a matter of getting the awareness out there and allowing people the opportunity to make these connections. Right. And it doesn't take much. I mean, we can do a school presentation for $700 and just completely change everybody's life, because we're not in it to get rich. We're in it to share the tools. We're in it to be the change that we want to see in the world.
That's right. Wow. Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
We're going to have you back because we can go. I mean, we started talking about the new vibration of relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun one we got into yesterday.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we could, oh, yeah. So, yeah, there's more to come on that. Well, thanks so much for coming by. And
Absolutely.
We certainly will be seeing you soon. And I hope you all have enjoyed this as much as we have.
Yep.
And so from my heart to yours, namaste.
Namaste.